Now, Washington Mornings on the Mall. 105.9 FM. And AM 630. WMAL.
6:37 on WMAL. Brian Wilson, Tori Clark in for Brian Neiman today. Tori has been without power. I have had glorious air conditioning for the entire weekend.
Brian's happy and cheerful. Tori a little less so.
Yeah, she's a little less so.
But don't you kind of wish Brian Neiman was here today?
Oh,
because nobody could do cranky better than Brian Neiman.
Yeah, especially if he hasn't had any power. He doesn't know if he has power because he's not home right now. Anyway, we're going to find out what's going on with the utility companies throughout the morning. Clay Anderson with Pepco will be here in the 7 o'clock hour. Ken Barker with Dominion Power at 7:37. Right now on the line from BGE, Robert Gould. Robert is the spokesperson and vice president of corporate communications for BGE. Mr. Gould, how are you?
Good morning. I'm doing fine.
All right. So you had customers out, total customers that were out somewhere in the neighborhood of, what, 1.2 million at one point?
Well,
no, that's how many customers you have. You had 241,000 out at one point, right?
Well, we've had about 600,000 in total that have lost their power. Now, the good news is within 2 days, we've been able to restore about a little bit more than 400,000 customers already, but we've still got about 240,000 customers that are without power. And of that number, subtract 12,000 plus, because that's what we lost last night as a result of new storms that rolled through. And that's the challenge for us.
Wow.
Typically when a hurricane rolls through in the summer, we find ourselves in a situation where the weather clears, and then we can get right to work, and there's nothing behind it. Well, here we have the combination of high heat, but more importantly, we have basically almost like airplanes lined up to land. We've got storms that are rolling in from the west, the Midwest in particular, coming at us. Today,
all right.
We probably won't have them.
All right,
but
so how long
really,
is it
wreaking havoc?
I understand the difficulty there, but how long will it take, you think, before, let's say, 95% of your grid is back up?
Well, let's just talk in totals, because I think in a storm like this, if you say 90%, that means you still have about 50 or 60,000 customers out of service.
Right.
We're looking at this going into the weekend. The large majority will be, overwhelming majority will be in probably by the end of the week, thereabouts. But this is no doubt going into the weekend. And what we found with Hurricane Irene is it's better not to set false expectations for our customers. What we heard was, tell us what to expect so at least we can plan for it. Give us the worst case, and that's what we're doing here.
So you're saying that on Monday morning, it looks like you won't have power restored for the great number of your customers until the weekend.
Yeah, what I'm saying is exactly that. And I think we have to remember this is not a flip-the-switch operation. The storm that came through here is, in essence, a hurricane without a name. We're seeing damage that rivals, if not exceeds, Hurricane Irene and Hurricane Isabel. Think about it this way. During Hurricane Irene last summer, we lost 750,000 customers over a period of 20 hours or so. Over a period of just 2 hours Friday night, we lost more than three-quarters of that number, almost 600,000 or more than 600,000 customers in just 2 hours. And we did not have the crews, the out-of-state utility workers that we would typically draw upon a week in advance. When we have a hurricane coming through like Irene, we have 900 or 1,000 out-of-state utility workers already on our system ready to go before the storm hits. So we did not have that luxury. And just to be clear, there's no utility in this nation or even in the world that staffs for a hurricane-type situation. You staff for the normal, traditional day-to-day operations. We would normally reach out to the utilities to the north, west, and south of us for support as they would with us. In this case, everybody, because of the storm coming from the west, everybody was impacted from from Pennsylvania south through North Carolina. We have crews coming in. We've got over 1,000 out-of-state linemen that will be hitting our territory today in earnest from as far away as Texas, Florida, Georgia, Mississippi, and as far north as New York, Michigan, and Quebec, Canada. So we're going to be making a lot of progress throughout the week, but keeping in mind, too, that when I say this is going to extend into the weekend, that also presumes that we don't have any worse weather that comes through, just like we lost 12,000 plus just a couple of hours ago.
Right.
So, Robert, you're saying no utility company in the country prepares for this hurricane-like activity to happen as just did, but maybe should we prepare for that? Given that there seem to be more storms, don't we need to change the way we prepare for these inevitable occurrences?
Well,
I've been hearing this for the last couple of days. Well, this is a once in X years event, and we weren't prepared for this, and we usually draw upon other workers from nearby states, and we couldn't in this case. But this seems to happen with a certain regularity now. So shouldn't we prepare for it differently?
I'm not sure that the regularity, we're talking about the past couple of years. We didn't have a storm on the order of magnitude of Irene since 2003. So the first storm we had was just a couple of years ago. Of that magnitude, I guess when it boils down to is cost, and those costs are borne by the customer. And so you're talking about adding at least, look at a situation like this, at least 1,000 utility workers plus equipment and other things for one type of storm that might occur once in every couple of years.
That would be exorbitantly expensive.
Hugely expensive.
Okay, but I push back on both of you. I think there are lots of costs for the customers that we're not really talking about or seeing. I know thousands and thousands and thousands of people in this area for the last few days have had to go out and eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner at restaurants because their refrigerators are out. The loss of productivity, people who cannot go to work. A lot of people will not be able to go to work for the next few days either because the power is out there or they can't get to work. There are huge costs that are being borne by the customers here.
Well, I would push back and just, with respect, and just say that this is Mother Nature, and the reality is that there is a significant cost associated with staffing for a storm of historic proportions. And I just did a live shot with a local Baltimore TV station, and even the weather forecaster had said, in defense of BGE and other utilities as well as weather services. This was one that there was no warning. To be very honest, the first time we even had an inkling that this storm was going to wreak havoc on us like it did was an hour before it hit the system, because typically these storms dissipate once they hit the mountains.
So you had some hope that freight train that was coming down from Ohio would evaporate when it hit the mountains.
No, we were actually staffed up in excess of what we normally would for what historically would be the storms that come across the mountains this time of year.
But nothing like this. This was different.
Nothing like this. And I do understand. Look, we get it. A lot of our folks and their families are out of power, and there's nothing worse than sitting in a situation where you have no power. And typically, hurricanes occur in the fall when it's a little bit cooler. The storms roll through, and then a front comes through, and it's cooler. Well, here you have weather that is just oppressive. And our customers are having to bear that.
Well, one quick question before you go, because Governor O'Malley said he's going to keep the boot right on the backside of the utility companies. Is he being unfair there? Is he just playing politics?
I'm not. As far as the governor is concerned, he has a role to play here. We understand that. We're working very closely with the administration, not just at the state level, but the local level and the regulators. We all want to see power restored. This is not the time for anything other than coming together and working together to get power back in service.
Robert, listen, I know you got your hands full. Good luck to you. We hope maybe you can do a little better than the weekend, but Godspeed, my friend.